out, that works as well. Meanwhile, we are going to be talking today about merchandising strategies, in terms of our e-commerce business and how do we craft successful merchandising strategies. So I'd love to hear from you guys since it is a networking event. Feel free to share your information in the chat so that others can as well be able to connect with you. We are trying to keep a tight community here, so feel free to share your information. And then also share your latest win with around the strategies for merchandising that you guys have successfully experienced. If you're already in business, if you're not, then of course, welcome. And we're going to just learn together. I'd like to just start just by saying thank you for being here. I know that you could be able to spend your busy hour somewhere else, but you chose to be here. So I really appreciate it. Just kind of a little bit about why I'm doing this and a little bit about me. This is not a sales call, so don't try to drop off at the end of the call. I'm not trying to sell you anything. This is truly a networking event for us to be able to touch base some of the critical strategies and concerns and challenges that we are all experiencing as we're being in the fashion business. We're here to learn from one another. And for me as well, to share my expertise based on the 25 years being in the fashion industry, sitting on the manufacturing side as well as on the buyer side of working for large retailers, helping them kind of do their merchandising strategies as well as build their private label brands. I've been in this business coaching and consulting as well for 16 years after I successfully built and sold my own brand of convertible clothing. And back in 2011 when I started, made lots of mistakes about first year and a half by applying the similar strategies that I would apply for all of the companies I worked prior to that with big budgets. And I have failed because what I've learned, strategies when you do it on a lean self-funded budgets are very different than they are when you are working with the big budgets. One of the things that I did do for my own personal self about a year and a half later after I bled lots of money, I realized that this is not going to work continuously and going down that path. So I had to take a step back and kind of reevaluate all of my end-to-end process of how I'm going to approach my business. And once I figured out my 12 phases and I consecutively start taking those phases without jumping over to the most exciting steps as product development, product design, and launching of the product as what most of us are focusing on as fashion entrepreneurs, I realized that there is a path to success and profitability. 4 years later, we were able to sell our business, where now, since then, I've been really working with the small and beginning entrepreneurs in the fashion industry to kind of help them build their vision while taking one large client at a time, working with large retailers, building their private label brands. This has been my passion since I was 4. So I am really passionate about sharing my knowledge and as well as bringing us together as a community to be able to learn from one another. So I'm really excited to start off. And today we are going to talk about the crafting successful merchandise strategies for the e-commerce business. As we know in today's landscape environment, whether you are potentially already in business and doing some wholesale opportunities selling to B2B, we know that we see the trajectory that direct to consumer is a must to be able to expand and grow your business. Or if you're just starting up, that probably might be a good opportunity to start first because you do need to collect the sales data and get customers' feedback before you're going to approach big box retailers or kind of enter the wholesale business successfully. So with that, it's a very critical step for all of us to kind of understand and learn. And merchandising is a big aspect of it. So I just kind of want to, before we dive into some of the topics that we're going to discuss, which one of them would be optimizing your product presentations, cross-selling and upselling techniques. We'll talk about the inventory and pricing management, as well as analyzing customer data and what critical points to take a look at. We want to make sure that I want to kind of open up with just a questionnaire discussion to kind of see where you guys are with your businesses. What challenges have you guys experienced with your merchandising strategies, as an example? Or maybe potentially you're just at the beginning where you are thinking of what type of assortment you're going to build and how you're going to merchandise it. So I'd love to open it up for you guys. Jean, I'm going to start with you. If you don't mind, just kind of share a little bit about your story to the group. And then, if you have a challenge that you're trying to kind of work through around merchandising, I'd love to hear it so that we can address it on this call.
Okay. Thank you, Yay. So I have a intimate apparel line of bras and panties, and it's the primary line. I do have some limited men's garments as well. Initially started after I was diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer, and I didn't like what I wore. So I took my media and tech background and kind of innovated something that would be fashion forward, contemporary line to really kind of offer um, better garments and easier to put on type of post-surgical undergarments for women. And I designed the Nina bra as my initial wrap bra, and I have a few other products, but I have utility patented over 20 designs of different garments, but I've only put into production a few. It's been very costly over the past several years. I initially launched an e-commerce line, and then started expanding with a few affiliates, really keeping it kind of small. And as far as merchandising, I've really struggled with having the partners assist with growing. I initially started with, I'm not going to mention any names, but certain partners committing to grow and to work with me. And a lot is some of the challenges have been with setting up their back end systems, which are all unique and different and proprietary systems. And that takes a lot of time and investment to do that. And then once you get it up and running, not to see the the benefit of that, and to see the sales come from it. So from it's not necessarily from a merchandising perspective, but more from a promotion, product promotion, and a sales perspective. So, it's making a decision as to when is it time to drop off after you put that investment in to get things up and running. When is it time to drop off? So, and when is it time to start with a new partner? So that has been really as part of my growth, some of the challenges that I've experienced. So just something that I happy to share with you and
Perfect.
some of the members. Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. I really appreciate it for sharing that. And that's it's, a common challenge for many, especially who's starting up kind of in the industry, and without really fully understanding the all of the little nuances that kind of go in. And it's easy to get derailed by someone coming in and promising you the world, and then at the end they don't deliver. So this is where, one of the biggest things that I always kind of encourage is to have the roadmap, know exactly all of the steps that kind of intake, and take them consecutively so that you don't take or sign up an agency or a system too prematurely, so that you can be able to save for preserve your initial fundings and kind of work with that environment. But thank you for sharing a really common challenge as well. Akansha, do you want to just share a little bit about your story with the group, and kind of your challenge on the merchandising side, before we move forward?
Sure. So, as you know, I started this business like only a year ago when I first met Ye through a call because I just jumped on one of her calls, and I had initially been really, really struggling because I have no background in fashion or business. So when I first, started, it was just as of a passion because I have huge passion for animal welfare and fashion. So I created my own vegan handbag line. And I just didn't know, like I still haven't launched my business, so I'm still in that phase. And just like Jean mentioned, I was kind of like, oh, I could go for, a good marketing agency or someone that could help me but because of how expensive everything is, you can't just, right off the bat start with an agency or just get into it. You kind of have to build yourself. And that's sort of what I learned from you, is sort of have a business plan. I just ran through it and had no business plan whatsoever. So I kind of like backed up and then I started from scratch. I currently only have, I wanted to start with 3 SKUs. Now, I'm different because I haven't launched my business yet. So obviously I have time to modify a lot. So I wanted to launch with tote bags, But when I first received my sample, that was a total fail. I realized that, tote bag would be expensive first to make, and then to sell, it would be like a big commitment to sell that. So you want to start with something simple and just one thing that people would want to love, and then expand my SKUs, right? So now I kind of learned that through my samples and just using my samples as well. I realized that a smaller bag would be much better to sell. So I plan to launch in 6 months. I haven't launched yet, so I don't have some of the struggles that other people might have that have already launched. But for me, I'm still learning through suppliers and where to get it made, how many to get made. Should I just do a pre sale before even launching all of these, so that I don't end up spending money on creating a lot of production before it even launches. So I'm kind of in like the pre-stages, so I sort of modify as I learn something. So that's kind of where my struggle is at. But in terms of SKUs, I learned that I don't have to launch with 3 SKUs, and I just go for maybe a small and a wallet that's more affordable for people to learn about my brand and then expand.
Makes total sense. And you're right. So, a couple of the things that you brought up, which is really interesting, and I want to kind of highlight them, before we dive into merchandising strategies, is, figuring out how many SKUs you're going to launch, what SKUs you're going to launch with. A lot of that actually needs to come from your planning phase, from the competitor research, understanding your consumer that you're the end consumer that you're trying to target, and understand what their needs are and what they typically would spend money on, right? And that will give you identification whether should that be a wallet, that be a small clutch, or that should be maybe a tote bag, and that you need to try to pursue and find a way to manufacture it. So they're really going to be critical to understand what your product, and that initial first product, especially because you made a really good point. It's not necessarily you have to launch with a full-blown collection. You can't start with just one product, but that product has to address the customer needs. So whether you are trying to help the customer to stay more organized, right? Whether they are trying to find maybe something that is really absolutely unique that solves their idea of never losing the keys in their purse because it's attached to the wallet. I mean, just giving hypothetical examples, but I think it's very critical to truly identify who your target audience is and what their need is, so that you can make the decision which product you're going to launch in first. So it's not the supply chain or limitation of product development that should dictate you which product you're going to launch with, but it really needs to going back to the consumer. What is it that their need is? How do you going to be able to solve that need, and how is that different from the competitors that you're going up against? That's how you're going to win the story with your merchandising strategy. So definitely really good point that you brought up that I think is very critical to mention. Samantha, I know you are at the different time zones, so just let me know if you're able to talk. If you are, I'd love to hear your story. If not, we'll just move forward, and maybe you can just write your story in our text, in our chat.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah. So like I just want to share a little bit of story of mine. So maybe my English might be not that much good because in India my accent is very different and I speak very slowly, and sorry for that. So like we are a manufacturers from India. Like what the challenges we are facing is that now many of the people were going and talking with the middlemans and all those persons, like so like we are trying to get all our buyers in a direct way so that we can cost cut that, and we can address their requirements directly, and we can even like put all our customizations to them, like what Akanksha is facing for the, I think Akanksha might facing the MOQ problem, that is minimum order quantity for a tote bag. So like that, when no from our side there is no that much criteria or something. So like, and our my challenge is that basically it is tough for me to find the many clients in export orders. And as from I'm from India, the cotton rates and the fabric rates are very less, which comparing to other other countries and all those things. So and I am new to this field because I have been working in IT field now. Within like 2 years I'm working in it, and I can able to get more clients in that, but still struggling somewhere, that where I need to post a content or something, somewhere I'm getting struggling. So I don't know where I am exactly stuck. In that time only I saw your post and all those things regarding your design, which really helps me out and it motivates me too, and thanks for that actually. So I think that's my short story of my business and about me.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for sharing. And Samantha, you're right. It's not, from the manufacturing side, it's also challenging, same as from the actual direct to consumer fashion brands. Challenging to
Yeah.
understand who your target audience is and be able to penetrate the market, especially if you're trying to penetrate US market. So there are definitely some strategies that we can meet offside, kind of from away from this call, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the
Yeah, sure.
opportunities, how that can be integrated into what you guys are doing. But at the end of the day, it's a very similar challenge. Understand who your target audience is, what their needs are, so that you could be able to address their needs instead of just trying to reach out to everybody out there in the world and see who is going to pay attention to what you have to offer.
Yeah.
People
The only
tend
thing
to
is
listen.
as we are a garment manufacturer, like we do many products. So it's not like
Yeah.
only targeting a particular set of audience. Like that's where we are struggling. Like we have a lot of categories from kids, adults, that is women and sportswear. Like so when we have a lot of categories, even like what Akansha has mentioned, the tote bags also, and the what Jean is saying about the undergarments. Like we do varieties of products as per customer requirements. So we don't have a particular target audience. That's where we are lacking, because we were in generic. So I couldn't trying to marketing or even digital marketing, it's tough to find a particular target audience. That's what I'm facing actually.
So, yeah, so I'm hearing you, and I will tell you that you guys do have very specific target audience. You just have to segment
Uh-huh.
it, right? So for every category, from every type of product that you're creating, there is going to be its own customer persona. And some might
Mm-hmm.
overlap, but majority of them will have its own customer persona and direction. So you got to really identify what those customer personas are, then
Hmm.
analyze which one you want to pursue with first, probably choose two to focus
Okay.
with, get them done first, get them kind of going and get the clients, and then expand to other customer personas. The problem is that you're
Amazing.
trying to do everything at once without clear
Mm-hmm.
direction of who you're trying to target, because you're going based on
Mm-hmm.
your capabilities of product versus understanding what who's your customer that might potentially need those categories and product, what are their needs, is crafting your assortment that you're going to pitch to them so that it grabs their attention, finding your
Mm.
unique selling value propositions, and that's how you win that
Okay.
customer. Okay.
Okay.
So again, and
Amazing.
that would be, I think, would be great for us to talk offline. So there, definitely we can do that later on. But I'd love to pass to
Sure,
kind of
sure.
jump
Thank
in
you.
into the actual topic. And so one of the things I want to start with the optimizing product presentation. Merchandising has two different sides, right? One is merchandising and creating your own assortment, and figuring out which colors, which fabrics, how many SKUs you're going to offer, how many product categories you're going to offer. And that's a very critical piece about the merchandising, which we've discussed in our previous conversations. But just to kind of a little bit of recap, identifying who you're going to be the primary drivers of your merchandising strategy, applying a good, better, and best scale strategy to understand where you're going to fall in the market between good, better, and best scale, so that you could be able to then focus your merchandise around that. And that not just drives by the product quality and product price point, but it also has different other elements that would potentially fall into whether the competitors you're going up against, whether what type of details you potentially might, what type of functionalities customer will expect in the particular bucket of good, better, and best, depending on where you are positioning yourself, and whether you're doing essentials, whether you're doing fashion product, or whether you're going to do more of a performance type of a product. So thinking about that strategy is going to be critical. And as you start to kind of gain traction with the assortment and sales, you want to apply the 80-20 rule, right? And one of the things, it's a golden rule that well, many of us know, but for some reason we don't apply it often enough, is to really analyze your sales data, understanding what are the 20% that drives 80% of your revenue. And there's always going to be that 20% that drives 80% of the revenue. The rest of it is going to be noise. You can analyze and apply that particular rule, not just to the style itself, but you look at the fabrications that performed or outperformed in the past for you guys. You look at color, you look at size, and you're constantly analyzing season over season to make the adjustments in your assortment and kind of re-merchandise your assortment in the way that it would be the most efficient and performing. The other thing that we often see in merchandising aspect from the assortment creation is that people or entrepreneurs tend to turn their inventory and so turn their style seasonally, and they pretty much scratch everything they've designed a previous season, and then they create new collection for the following season. And they're trying to turn the seasonality so quickly that they're actually losing money on R&D that they've invested to be able to recoup that in sales from that season or potentially seasons to come. It's important to remember that each product has its own life cycle, and there's always going to be a peak for the product and there's going to be a downfall. So it's important to understand and ride it up to the peak and catch it to the point where it starts to right there at the downfall side. Make the adjustments, whether you're adjusting it in the color, maybe you're adding a different element to it, or maybe you retire that style for just some time, introducing a different style, and then you're going to do the swap again to kind of reconvene that that style was a high driving revenue style for you in the past. So there's different strategies in that sense to think about when you are building your assortments, and it's critical to understand. But for us to be able to truly perform and truly give the best possible option for the customer to actually respond and buy your product, it's not enough just to think about your merchandising strategy from the assortment creation. We got to think about the visual merchandising of how that product is presented to the customer, how the product customer is able to interact with your product pages, especially when we're talking about e-com. You got to remember that from when the difference between e-commerce shopping versus in-store shopping. In-store, you have a benefit of the customer touching the product, feeling the fabric, trying it on. So there's a lot of different other factors outside of just having a great product that potentially can win the customer towards your product and make the decision to purchase. When we are online, it's a little bit different. So think about what are the key drivers that would help the customer decide whether they're going to buy your product or not. So anybody wants to jump in and kind of tell me, what do you guys think the key drivers might be?
I'll comment, Yay. I think moving into the digital world, I think a lot of it has to do with fit and trying on the product, as you mentioned, transitioning from the e-commerce traditional platforms to different types of buying habits online. And I ventured into this about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and have been still in development with taking my brand and moving it into a digital format. And it's still not there yet, because for undergarments, it's very complicated to get the fit correct and to get the avatars and to get everything working the way it should. It's not just like putting on a t-shirt and throwing it on over, a mannequin. So it's a little bit different and a lot more complicated. And I haven't really gotten the product right for the way I'm happy with it. I'm pleased with it. So I haven't rolled out my product yet. I've given previews of it in the marketplace. But as you mentioned, you're totally right on with the visual merchandising is key to the success, but it has to do with the niche and the product segment that you're in, because it is different for every type of category. So intimates are different from different type of apparel. So yeah, I'm feeling that those challenges now.
100%, Jane. You brought up a really, really, really good point. So a couple of things. So, one of the things that you've mentioned is the fit and quality, right? So how can we communicate fit and quality to our consumer that's on e-com? The traditional way, outside of what Jean just mentioned, which we're going to talk about in a second, traditional way is to provide really detailed fit charts, right? The size charts. But it's not enough just to provide a size chart. It's also critical to educate your customers how to measure themselves so that they could be able to apply those measurements and read the size charts correctly. A lot of the brands tend to put the size charts and they hope for the best. But one of the things they're not realizing that our consumer is honestly just many times don't even know how to potentially measure themselves, even how to properly measure their chest, as an example, in order for them to be able to match it to a size chart in the bust. So providing the information right there at the size chart screen of view, how to measure, how to apply that, how to read it. But Jean brought up a great point. Now with all of the Web3 opportunities and capabilities and AI coming in the spectrum more and more, there are opportunities where you can create virtual fittings where people can be able to enter their measurements, and to your point, the avatar gets created, the product gets fitted, and the customer can see exactly how it would fit on their body. It's a great way to go. That's the future, and that's where we headed to. But also potentially doing it a little bit more on a less of an advanced scale at the beginning is where at least where they can be able to enter their measurements, and then your algorithm actually helps them match to the right size based on your size charts and measurements. So that might be a great way of kind of intermediate between the virtual fittings versus just the very traditional, here is my size chart, and then, figure it out yourself how to buy it. So one of the things that's going to be very critical to also is in the description to explain potentially exactly how, in her recommendation, how your product is actually fit. Is it true to size? Is it more of a Missy size? Is it more curvy size fit? Also looking at having diverse models that are wearing your product in your product pages and integrate into your product pages, so the customer can be able to see how it fits on different type of body types, so that they'll be able to hopefully make the better decision, and also letting them know what size was the model and what size of the particular product that model is wearing. So all of those little details will help to gain the credibility and trust from the customer to say, hey, I think I can see how this potentially can fit, and minimize the return rate because due to the just trying on and fits. I mean, we all know that return rates are really high on the e-commerce side, and that's what e-commerce world, and that's what tend to kill many brands. So thinking about also potential other additional strategies to minimize your return rates is potentially having the try on option. As you know, like a lot of times that's done with sunglasses or eyeglasses type of eyewear products, or Stitch Fix came up with right when at the very beginning. You could have just tried on the product. They would send you a sample box where you can try on, understand your fit, and then from there, based you established your fit and size, you would then purchase your product knowing that that product will fit. But that goes back onto the brand as well, making sure that your fit is consistent, because once you do win the customer on your fit, you don't want to play tricks on them and then accidentally have a different type of a fit on a different type of a product that you're creating. So consistency in fit is also going to be very critical. But as I mentioned, and what Jean kind of brought up, it's not just the fit that's going to win the customer's attention. The very first thing that they see, even before they experience the fit, is they're going to see the image, the product images that you are going to market with, as well as when the customer lands on your product pages, what is it that they get to see? And what we see a lot of times, there's a huge miss in just visual merchandising from the perspective of what type of images for the product people are putting up. There are a couple of studies that we personally also have done with some multi-billion-dollar retail brands. And for example, we've discovered that if you are doing a women's product, women actually like to see their product, at least the very first image that they would like to see. It's on their female body with the head cut off, right at the lip area. That converts the highest compared to the flat image or to a full figured image with the face of the model. Where on the male product, for example, it's quite the opposite. They don't want the highest converting primary image of the product is going to be actually a flat laid product, but very critical that it's not flat, like where everything, all the wrinkles are ironed out and it just looks like somebody just ironed a piece of garment on the table. But it needs to look natural. It has its own natural wrinkles. So it has a specific aesthetic that we see that it's converting much better than potentially other types of images. But in addition to your primary image, identifying which image is going to be the first image the customer going to see if you're interacting with your product, having the diversity of other image where it's images of the back, images of the side, images of details. A lot of brands tend to miss actually zooming in on clasps and closures if you're in the intimate apparel, or potentially on screen print or embroideries or neck tapes that are done in the regular apparel. In the bags area, in the bag situation, a console would be, for example, looking and doing details of the clasps, zippers, looking inside the pockets, how the pockets actually function. So truly providing the customer every possible variation for them is as they would be shopping in store, right? Because if you think about how does the customer interact with the product in store, they first come, something attracts them to come to the rack, then they touch it, they feel it. But then when they go to the fitting room, what do? They turn it inside out. They look at all the different things, the seams, the every little details that are potentially in that particular product. If we don't do the same kind of experience through our imagery on the product pages, that is definitely going to be a big miss. The other thing that we're seeing that helps to convert on the e-com side is to make sure that you have a 360 video of the product. I mean, that's kind of at this point starts to become a must to truly have the customer understand and see how the product interacts in the virtual space, right? Whether it's in the virtual or on the body, how it functions, how it moves. If you are especially dealing with the apparel, whether it's intimate apparel or regular apparel, potentially if you're doing it, like again, bags, how do you open it? How easy it is to open? How do you, when it's open, how is it easy to put things in your bag or take things out of the bag? So having that as part of your visual merchandising and product pages is definitely going to be critical. Those are the videos that you can also later on use for your marketing. But it's also to be able to have some lifestyle images. And lifestyle images are very critical because they set the emotional connection to your product with the customer. And that's when it's very critical to understand your consumer. If up to the lifestyle images, most of them are really should be done by best-in-class practices, some kind of technical way of putting your product with the right lighting, with the right shadows, with the right amount of white space around your image. When it comes to lifestyle, now that's truly need to speak to your consumer. And each consumer persona is going to be very different. Whether you're doing the end consumer, whether in Samantha's case, you guys doing a B2B consumer, there are still consumers. Those buyers are still looking for a specific thing to fit into their retail store that speaks to their end consumer. So you need to really, truly identify who the end consumer is, or if you are, and who would potentially, in your case, would be a B2B consumer, and tell the story through your lifestyle images. Giving you an example, if you're an outdoor type of a brand that potentially caters to outdoorsy customer, well, your lifestyle images should be then done outdoors in the settings that they potentially intended that product to use. Same thing with you doing in the country in your case, right? If we're looking at more of a handbags type of a situation, well, what type of settings would that be that handbag would be worn, right? Is it going to be more wear to the party, or maybe it's more of a casual, maybe it's at the grocery store that she's wearing and pulling out that wallet, and it's so easy for her to organize. I mean, just trying to truly understand the customer behavior so that you can be able to speak and relate to that customer through the lifestyle imagery is absolutely critical and a must. And you'll be very surprised how many brands miss this. And then they go straight into marketing, and then they think why nobody's responding the way that they would like to respond, and or why when the people are landing on their product pages, they're not converting into sales. A lot of times where we see that issue is is not efficiently done imagery and product description and size charts, and kind of winning that customer's trust. When we look at leveraging technology, like we talked about the Web3, but it's really critical to also integrate into your process of visual merchandising A/B testing, where you potentially might be testing whether the first image view, whether that's a flat image or on the model, or potentially even a lifestyle image, which one will convert better specifically with your customer and brand, right? having studio lifestyle images versus the outdoorsy lifestyle images versus insetting lifestyle images potentially might convert better for one customer versus the other, for one brand versus the other. So A/B testing in the visual merchandising aspect is going to be very critical. And again, we don't spend enough time in A/B testing, and we just go straight into the launch, and then we sit there and wait and think about, well, why did not convert the way we would hope. This is why we always say for the new brands, always have as part of your process to do a soft launch, because the soft launch gives you at least 3 months of marketing ahead of time before you even start doing soft launch. And that will give you a lot of time to do the A/B testing, to truly understand your demographic, truly understand what customer is responding to, so that when you do ready to do a full launch, you could be able to spend your marketing dollars more efficiently and strategically, specifically targeting creating the ads that are targeting not just the right audience, but as well as creating that emotional connection that you're seeing that they're responding to. The other aspect that I always say when this particular segment is to make sure that you also carefully evaluate what the competitions are doing and how they are presenting their product, especially on the e-com world, to their customer. Because what we also see, another big pitfall that we see that brands tend to do is they say, well, I'm going to create the visuals that are going to set me apart from everybody else, and I'm going to do it this way. Well, what they don't realize is that when you look at the sheer amount of direct competitors that target exact customer that you're trying to target, there is going to be always some sort of a common ground that is actually seen in between all of those competitors. And that common ground is what you want to identify so that you can adopt that in your process as well. Because that eliminates the penetrating the market from absolutely unknown world, where instead of you actually relating to the customer aesthetics, look and feel of what they're gravitating to, and then you just making it better. And that's what's going to help you to kind of win the market and succeed. And the next thing I wanted to kind of top in is the cross-selling and upselling technique. When we look at the visual merchandising strategies, a couple of things you want to remember. When you're launching the product on your website, it's typically a good thing to do is to at least have 12 facings and that doesn't necessarily have to be 12 of the different products. That potentially, if you're doing multiple colors, that each color could be separate facing, at least until you're going to get more different variety for people to be able to choose from. And the reason why you thinking of like a reason of 12 is because if you are shopping on a desktop, especially, it will actually give you a nice fill-in page of the product pages. So it feels like your store is full. If you are going in the route of, hey, I'm just going to do one product and I'm going to be the best at that product, so then you got to think about how you're going to create your website and e-commerce shopping experience, and really making sure that it feels more like a one-pager type of a theme of your shopping website, so that it will feel like that you are truly talking about that product and it doesn't feel like an empty store with just one item. Because when the customer lands on your store and if they see that you're all over the place with your visual merchandising, or if you're all over the place with how your product positioning or assortment is, or if you have too little and it feels empty, they're most likely not going to buy, just because if you're sure that you did not gain their trust of that you are established brand and that you are selling the product of the quality that they will need or what they would expect to have. I always tell all my beginner entrepreneurs is that even though you're just starting up, you got to think of yourself as a big brand, right? Everything that you are putting out there has to look very professional and top notch, so that you can win that competition. Not everybody has to know your background story of you, that you're just literally starting up. So that's going to be very critical. Personalization is another great aspect, right? Of thinking about how do we strategically, first of all, place products especially if you, let's say, intimate apparel, or if you have an apparel line, what products go together, right? So remember, customer is not savvy. Most of the customers are not savvy to understand how it's best to outfit themselves. That is why shopping in store is much easier for them to do, because they can go and window shop. They see the look they love. They're going to come into the store. They're either going to buy the whole look or just pieces of it, but at least with in mind how to wear that particular product. On e-commerce, we don't have that luxury, but we do have an ability to do integrating of product suggestions, based on, hey, if I selected this product, here are some other recommended product that we recommend that would go together that can help you to complete the look. So thinking about those positions, as well as personalizing it more to that particular customer fit or body type, for example, if they, especially in intimate apparel, if I'm in the curvy body type, then potentially you're going to recommend other complementary, flattering product that you have in your line that is specifically for curvy product, for curvy body, right? There's going to be no advantage if you are going to present something that are going to look great on the smaller sizes when you know that your customer who's shopping is particularly, let's say, a curvy size. So that's why having that information ahead of time, potentially in especially intimate apparel, might be a great aspect, or maybe like a quick one-to-one two-question questionnaire to help them to kind of personalize their shopping experience within your platforms. Thinking of bundle offers or as well as subscription offers. People love gifting subscriptions to one another, or getting a mystery box once, especially if they do have a trust and loyalty in your brand over time. So giving them some other options that they could potentially feel like they are saving on, or having that surprise moment, is great to integrate in your strategies, cross-selling and upselling techniques of the merchandising strategies. And really balancing tactics and customer experiences. It's address the importance of not being overly aggressive with the strategies to avoid customers kind of like backing off of you, right? So it has to feel natural. It has to flow natural with how the experience is as a consumer, whether they are doing it on your website or whether you're doing it on the third-party platform. As for example, one of the biggest things that we constantly recommend is, especially if you're on a lean budget, is not to start on your own site and try to sell it. So that's critical, but that's a long-term game and require a lot of investment on marketing, SEO, driving traffic to your site. So a lot of times if you are on a lean budget, starting with, let's say, Amazon or Zappos or Walmart or whatever it is, potentially might be a more economical way to start and faster to penetrate the market, grow the awareness to your brand, and then drive that traffic to your site. In addition, of course, parallel doing all the other important aspects of marketing to continue growing your website. But people who are coming in with small budget and say, well, I'm going to sell on e-commerce through my own site, I always question, do you have enough marketing budget and dollars to be able to actually do that successfully in a short period of time? And a lot of brands typically run out of money before they actually become successful selling it on their own website, because it does take quite a capital and time to be able to create awareness about your brand and the new website that you have. The other critical aspect of merchandising is to think about the inventory and pricing management aspect, right? And thinking about the dynamic pricing strategies. So it's to explain it's not just about adjusting prices based on the market demand, competition, and inventory level. A lot of our brands are being very static with their pricing, and they say, well, here's my cost, here's my margin or markup, and here's what I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to sell it just for that. Well, the beauty with the key e-commerce sales and data that you're acquiring, that you are constantly could be very dynamic with your pricing. You can adjust prices up and down based on velocity of the SKU selling, the inventory levels, potentially even on regions, right? If I'm a customer in California versus a customer in Kentucky, I might have a different price strategy, so that be based on their median income, so that they will be, so you can maximize your profits in more of states that have a higher median income versus be able to be more affordable for the states that have a lower median income. So, I mean, that's a strategy of its own as well. So figuring it out, what particular strategy would work the best for you in terms of the pricing as well, and be dynamic about it, is what's going to help you to kind of win your competition, and as well as hopefully maximize your profits and as you're moving forward. Thinking about software solutions. I mean, when you're starting up, obviously most of the time you'll do it out of Excel, or you're potentially going to do it through Shopify or BigCommerce that offer some of the solutions. But as you grow your business, and so going back to that planning phase when we're looking about building a 3 to 5 year projection plan before you start your business, and making sure that you'll be profitable on paper before you start. So if you haven't done that, that's definitely going to be a critical piece to go back and complete. That will help you to truly understand your, really will help you to understand when you actually need to be able to implement softwares that will help you either plan the inventory, manage your product, which is PLM, right? Manage your orders, which is the ERP, creating PIM, creating a software like PIM that helps you to put all the product information that flows from your inception of the product all the way into the product that is going to go live on the website. So, I mean, there's different types of software. So thinking about those that will help you to with your merchandising strategy as well, because a lot of the AI and like the customer behavior strategies are usually built in those. Think about also drop shipping and just-in-time inventory type of strategies is going to be critical in merchandising aspect. A lot of times we tend to commit to a lot of inventory up front. And as we know, the inventory is a death to any business. So thinking about strategically, how can that potentially be, especially, Kancha, I'm going to give you your example. You're starting out fresh, starting out new. Maybe start creating a brand new product from scratch and committing to large inventory to be able to actually sell that product might not be the right strategy. What if potentially finding a white label, that brand that is actually have the product and have the capabilities and aesthetic of what you're trying to perceive, and see if they'll be able to do either drop ship or potentially you can pull just enough inventory based on your sales demand to be able to sell the product with your branding and kind of help to build the story and overcome that big challenge before you have to deal with the inventory on top of that. So there are different types of strategies. And of course, from Samantha, in your guys' world, since you are the provider, is to think about, what are capabilities that you can offer in addition to logistical capabilities, in addition to just, hey, I can produce your product and ship it to you, but I can also be your 3PL or dropship solution, or I can stock your inventory at my warehouse, and release small batches to you as needed so that you are not able to, so that the brand is not sitting on all this crazy amount of inventory. Potentially kitting some foundational assortment that you customers can pull from, just make minor adjustments and putting some embellishments in their branding. And now you are able to offer that similar product to so many different brands. But then you can have a systematic approach on your guys' end of how you guys going to manufacture and how that becomes profitable. So thinking about those type of strategies are going to be very critical, and a lot of times missed and not thought through in the merchandising aspect, as well as thinking about stock optimization, right? Really, and thinking about how do you forecast your demands accurately to reduce the excess inventory. We're all about sustainability nowadays, and every brand is kind of required to be sustainable one way or the other. But the best way to be sustainable is to be able to figure out how to do it with zero waste. Zero waste of excess inventory, zero waste in your production. That would be a critical way, because waste is probably the biggest thing that we are up against currently in our kind of environmental situation. So I think figuring out how to be able to drive that and contribute to that would be a great, not just a marketing pitch, but as well as I think help you to maximize your profits and kind of think about how you're going to merchandise that aspect as well. Then when we look at the analyzing customer data, I think it's also going to be very critical to think about in the merchandising aspect is what matrix are you going to monitor? A lot of times what we're seeing that the biggest pitfall is when the brands don't collect enough data attributes to which then later on they can analyze on. So typically, what a brand will collect, well, I have a style, I'll look at the fabric, and maybe I'll look at the color and size. And then they kind of stop there. So we recommend to really sit there and pre-think about all the different types of attributes that would be beneficial for you over time to analyze and draw conclusions on your future assortments and inventory planning. Potentially looking at different hardware that you're using and tracking sales based on the different elements and hardware that you have applied or trims that you have applied, different finishes, different appliques of the embellishments. And there's so many different things that we can actually look at and analyze down the road But if you don't collect those attributes or to pre-think of those attributes that you're going to collect up front, you are going to miss and not going to have that opportunity. Looking at customer feedback loops. You know, we tend to put product out there and we just kind of run in a silo thinking, well, our product is the best and why people are not buying. Listen to your customer. The customer tends to create focus groups even with your customers and encourage them to provide you feedback, because you're going to learn a lot of information from them based on how that product potentially could be enhanced so that you can continuously make the customer feel that they've been heard and at the same time provide them the best product possible out there. Listening to the, giving you an example, for example, we're working with one of our clients that slightly not in apparel right now, but they're doing mixed drink product. And they've already launched, they've been in the market. But now when we took and actually analyzed their customer feedback, we've realized that majority of their customers is actually complaining about the taste, feeling the electrolytes in their product. So now when we reformulated that product based on meeting the needs of the customer and what they're kind of talking about, we won the market and be able to grow that brand exponentially in a short period of time, because we gave exactly what the customer was not satisfied fully with and gave them the trust that we listened to them and gave them what they wanted. So thinking about same thing applying to your apparel or to your handbags or anything that you're creating, and as well as applying that in your manufacturing processes of the assortments that you are potentially offering to your customers to manufacture. Also looking at segmentation strategies, I think are very difficult, really critical, is to really segment your customers that can lead to more targeted and effective marketing campaigns. We tend to market to everybody, and every message or the ad that we are putting or visual that we're putting, it should be applicable to all. Well, if you have 5 customer personas or 2 customer personas that you're focusing on, you got to treat them as 2 separate businesses and 2 separate marketing strategies, because each one of them will respond to different things. And so understanding that, going back to that A/B testing that we've talked ahead of time, at the beginning of our conversation, is going to be very critical to truly understand each of the customer personas and be able to create unique campaigns as well as visuals for them to be able to emotionally connect. Customer that connects with the brand emotionally will be higher chance to convert in sales and then coming back to you. And then coming back to you guys over time and buying your product. So thinking about those type of aspects, and as well as predictive analytics, right, is to explore how the AI and machine learning can be used in predicting trends in customer behaviors. I think that's definitely a critical aspect to start thinking about the future and how you can integrate that in your merchandising strategies, so that you can learn and understand your behavior and predict them ahead of time. Because it's not just we want to predict trends of economics of what's happening in the world, overall politically, as well as logistically, supply chains. We also want to understand the trends of the customer. And Akansha, like, this is a great example for you, right? You mentioned, well, maybe I just start with the wallet. Well, if you look at the kind of trend overall of the consumer, you're probably going to see that actually the usage of the wallets has been downtrending over several few years, because people are now actually not using wallets anymore. They're actually using their cell phone covers that already have wallets built in. They're minimizing their purses. There's no longer a need for small kind of mid-sized purses, because people actually now mostly gravitating towards either, hey, I have a cell phone and everything, or my bottle and everything attaches to it, or because they're mostly on the go, or potentially they're going to actually potentially go into for a bigger bag that allows them to put other things in there and so forth. So kind of just give you that as an example, right, is to truly understand your customer and your customer needs and understand the trends of where that customer is trending with interacting with a particular product category or product. And all that needs to be encompassed in your merchandising strategies. So merchandising strategies is not just, hey, what my product is going to look like and how many pieces of SKUs assortment I'm going to have, but it has a much more second side of the in-depth to really pre-think how the customer will interact with it, with your product, how you're going to make the recommendations to win the customer to buy more, right? So not just finishing on one item, but potentially upsell and cross-sell. how you're going to manage your inventory, how you're going to predict your inventory based on the data that you're collecting, what data you need to collect. And of course, the visual aspect of how you're going to present your product is definitely a key and critical aspect.